welcome back for another book review. Excited to be on again today. Today we're actually going to be talking about Murder at the Book Club, a little spooky, which kind of fits the vibes because tomorrow's Halloween. Does anybody use Halloween as a time to find dark academia trinkets for their bookshelf? Because I found the perfect thing at Michael's. I left it in my car, so I can't show you, but it was like skull and a mask, and it was cute, but very dark academia, and I love it. Also, I can find all of the perfect Shakespeare, Edgar Allan Poe vibes that I'm going for, and so it is awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this book review pretty short compared to my last couple. So, Murder at the Book Club. I rated this one a 2-star, and the only there was a few reasons, but for me, it just felt not too predictable, but too predictable. There wasn't much to grab me on or anything. It's written in second person, and I also feel like partly I don't really like second person. It's been a very long time since I've read anything in second person. It took me a while to realize that it was in second person, and I cannot remember the last time that I read in that point of view. So that definitely could have been it. If you're into murder mystery, you could definitely check it out. It wasn't my favorite, but also mystery isn't always generally my forte to begin with. This was my friend's little book club book that we read. But with that being said, I have read a lot of mystery books that I thoroughly enjoyed, but this one was not one of them. All right. So, if you don't want any spoilers, if you haven't read the book, go ahead and log off, save for if you are going to read the book. If you have read the book, then I'm about to start some spoilers. So this is your pre-warning for spoilers. I'm going to take a sip to let everybody log off. I broke my cup, you guys. That's not a recent thing, but it makes me sad every time I see it. I put it on the top of my car while I was getting my child out, and it fell on the concrete. Yay! Okay, so hopefully everybody logged off. Going into spoilers. I did not like Tony. Honestly, there was very few people in this book that I did like. I liked Marion. I feel like I liked Barbara, but I also don't think we actually saw a lot of her. And then everybody else I thought was just kind of snotty, rude, just angry at life. Or they were just gossip girls, or weren't very smart. And a lot of them were all three, or it was more than three, but a lot of them were a combination of all of those. I had to, at the very beginning, it was page 9. I have my my highlights and notes that I'm looking at. Page 9, Tony refers to her husband as being compared to a lapdog, and I was like, what? That just I didn't appreciate. I wouldn't like being compared to that. Also, I'm not a husband, but I wouldn't want to compare my husband to that. So it was just a really weird thing for someone to compare husbands to. So that immediately just turned me off from her. And then there was on page 10, she was getting on the bus with that elderly woman, and she just gave her a really nasty look, and then the elderly woman knew that she gave her the nasty, and I was just like, be nice. Why do you just have to hate on the world? Honestly, I feel like because it was Tony that died, I just wasn't very invested with trying to solve her murder because she died, and I was like, well, good riddance. Like, I didn't like you anyways. I feel like if it was like Marion or Barbara, I feel like I would have been more invested. But then it was Tony, and I really just partly didn't care about her because I didn't like her. um, I feel like so many of the characters just they weren't happy with like Tony, Shirley, and Kim were like the three biggest ones. But Tony and Shirley, did any okay, I read Shirley's point of view when she was working at the clinic. That was so rude. It was so gross. I was not into it of how she treated that poor man. It was horrible. I was like, you should not be working there. Honestly, looking back, I should have known with that because that right there threw me off of her so hard when she treated the man like that. And honestly, that should have clued me in that she was the killer in the first place if she was able to treat somebody like that. Anyways, I will say I didn't fully see it being Shirley. I kept going back and forth between Pauline because she had the big motive of them from Tony having her start her business. Okay, a mobile library of Kindles. Does anybody think that's a good idea? Because I didn't think that was a good idea. I laughed out loud. There was a line, and it was like, yeah, it's gonna be a mobile library. And she was like, that sounds horrible. And then the other character said, of Kindles. And then I think it was Shirley. And Shirley goes, that's even worse. I laughed out loud because I agreed. At first they said mobile library, and I was all for it. I was like, yes, I love me a good mobile library. And then she said of Kindles, and I was just like, what? Who does a mobile library of Kindles? First of all, how do you get that many Kindles to do a mobile? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. I feel like when people want to go and find a mobile library, they want the aesthetic of physical books. They don't want a Kindle. If they're gonna do that, they're just gonna buy their own Kindles. So the whole time I thought that was stupid. Amy really made me mad with her argue with her husband, and I went back and forth because, well, first of all, the husband just starts saying, I don't want to have this horrible conversation with you again. And you don't even find out what that conversation really is until the next time it's in their point of view. So the whole time I was like, why was he so quick to get angry then? Because like it was just like a complete 180. Like there wasn't even anything that she said that would have made me thought that would have made somebody angry. And so I just couldn't understand it. And then that next time it was just he'd had an affair, but he didn't even have an affair. Okay, I am not justifying, but from the reaction she had, I thought it was an affair. But it was he had a fling with his ex 2 months after they got together in the first place, years before they were even married. And I was like, okay, that's not the same. Because at first it was just like, I know we'd only been together 2 months. And I made a comment. I was like, 2 months dating or 2 months married? Because that's not the same thing. Um, and then it was 2 months dating. And I was like, Amy, that was like what, 3, 4 years ago? Y'all are married, having a baby now. Like, I don't think what happened 2 months in your relationship's important now. I don't think. But also, thinking about it, I feel like I wouldn't be happy if my husband came and told me that he'd slept with someone 2 months into our relationship. But also, I don't think I would have kicked him out either. Like, I would have been upset. I would have been like, I didn't need it. I feel like I would have just been like, okay, why are you telling me? At that point, I'm like, you're just telling me to stir the pot more than anything. Because why did I need to know that? And so Amy gets the threatening note and then doesn't tell the police. And then the police comes and they're upset that she didn't tell them. And she's just like, "Well, yeah, I didn't tell you. I mean, her husband was in the hospital at that point. She had other things to worry about and stuff. But when she first got it, she was concerned enough to call her husband and ask him to come back. But then I feel like I would have immediately after called the police about it. And then she didn't. That was, I was like, these people are so idiotic. The first interview with Shirley and how she hated cops and was very out of it, that kind of started cluing me in of wondering about her. And I mean, I know a lot of people just don't like cops, but it was just weird because she was the only person in the book club that reacted that way. Maggie, when the cops came over, she was super excited and was like opening the door and got them cake and smiling. And I was like, dude, like they're here for a murder investigation. This is not a social get together. Um, and so yeah, that was funny. Janet, there's a lot I could say about Janet. She was not a bright person. She had been following Shirley around for months because she was like in love with her, recording her. She recorded the murder investigation, and then instead of taking that to the police, she meets up with Shirley and tells her she has that recording and says she's not going to tell anybody. I was like, what kind of. I think my exact quote was, why on God's green earth would you tell her? Like, that was my note. I was like, you're such an idiot. Like, why would you tell her? And then, I mean, Janet dies and she's the second murderer. And I'm like, well, yeah, Shirley was going to kill you after she found that out. But all. Okay, one thing. So there's one note, I need to scroll down, and it's Shirley, and so in one page, she's expressing to Kim, and she's saying, and then that girl Janet had to go and ruin everything and take a video recording, and da 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 da. But then in the police station, when she has um the interview of the confession and stuff, which first of all, I feel like it's super rare for someone to just get into an interview and just confess like right out. I was like, would they do that? I feel like it was too easy. Like I feel like I would have wanted dragged out, and it's too easy. Um, but yeah, one page she was confessing or telling Kim she knew that Janet had recorded her, and then in the scene with the interview, she had no idea about the recording. And the two officers could tell she had no idea, and she would have hid the phone better if she knew about it. And so did she know? Did she not know? I don't know. What do we think? Was she faking it, or was it? I almost am thinking it's an error to put in the first place with Kim, because that is true. Like if she knew about the recording, she would have taken the time to hide like she wouldn't have just left the phone out. So I feel like she wouldn't have known about the recording, but then she did, but then she didn't. And so that was just weird. It was just a 2-star because the whole book was them going, well, because Tony had an affair with Shirley's husband, and that's why she killed Tony. And the whole book, it was the officers going, I know it has something to do with the affair. I know it has something to do with the affair. And then I know it has something to do about the abortion Tony had. And then it was. And I was just like, I don't know. Although I will say, if it was Pauline with the whole money order thing, I feel like I would have rated it less because then it would have been just too obvious. I feel like for me, I would have liked it better if it was like Marion that did it because I wouldn't have seen that coming at all. It was just too predictable. I don't feel like I like the writing style, and that's just it's just an opinion, personal. That has nothing to do with the author. That has nothing to do with me telling anybody not to go read the book. I did enjoy it, but I will say like there's a second book that I'm not gonna read. I have no there's no grab, there's no interest for me to continue reading on. I'm done with it. Um and so that's my rating. And I feel so bad because the last two ratings I gave are huge 5 stars and I love them, and then this book it just didn't hit home for me. It didn't make me have any feels. It didn't There was no part in the book that had me looking at it on the edge of my seat. I didn't cry at all throughout the book. I mean, I read this one murder mystery um a few weeks ago, and I don't know if I can say the name because it's not actually published yet, but it's on Goodreads. Oh, well, it's on Goodreads. Can I say it? I don't know. When it gets published in January, and when it does, I'm gonna do a whole review. But you knew that this girl dies. She dies chapter 1, and you see it in the sister's point of view. And then like at the end of the book, they show the point of view of the girl dying, and I sobbed. And like the whole book I knew she died. Like I knew she was dead, but just the way it was written, so well written, I just sobbed. And I can't rate a good book if it doesn't get me in the feels, if it doesn't get me super excited, if I'm not sitting at the edge of my seat because this whole big reveal and like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next, or I'm crying, or I need to know what happened, and I never had any of that, and that's why I rated it 2 star. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this book review. I enjoyed reading it. Um, I enjoyed doing this book review and hanging out with you guys. So, see you guys next time. Bye.